Intense should be the first word that comes to mind whenever we are talking about Scorpio energy. And with this upcoming Scorpio full moon, this is a time for endings, for culminations, a wrapping up of things. And obviously, as we move into the waning moon, we begin the process of letting go and release. We're going to be analyzing the Scorpio full moon using both Western and Chinese astrology in my signature style, which is simple and easy to understand, as well as practical and applicable to your life. Now we're going to start with Western, then go into the Chinese analysis, but depending on your time zone, you will have a slightly different experience of this full moon, which we will get into later in the Chinese astrology analysis. But let's start off with the Western astrology analysis first. Now, this full moon will personally be affecting you if you have your sun, moon, rising in Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, or Aquarius, as well as if you have any inner planets within 8 degrees to 14 degrees in either Taurus or Scorpio. Keep in mind that outer planets from Jupiter onwards, if you have any of those planets within 8 to 14 degrees, yes, they will be affected, but they're more generational planets. So it's not going to be as much of a personal impact to you as if it was your sun, moon, rising, Mercury, Venus, or Mars. Let's talk about the axis of Taurus and Scorpio first, because a Scorpio full moon means that the moon is in Scorpio and the sun is directly opposite that in Taurus. Whenever we think of this axis, we are thinking of money, possession, ownership, and power. Those are going to be the main themes that come up for this axis, for this opposition. Now, Taurus is all about what is mine, and Scorpio is about, well, what is ours? What do we share together? Taurus is grounded in the physical. It focuses on the physical stuff. It focuses on security. It focuses on what is mine and how do I keep it safe. Whereas Scorpio focuses on emotional depth, transformation, what's mine but also yours, and what can I control. In terms of power, Taurus is more prone to giving its power away. It's much more of that kind of gentler sign. It carries with it a bit of insecurity. And Scorpio is prone to hurting others to maintain its own power and to protect itself. Now, both of these signs are what we call fixed, meaning that they can get stuck. And the way that they get stuck is a little bit different because, again, we're working with an opposition here. So Taurus tends to get stuck in not changing, in things that make them feel safe and secure. They are happy to just stay there and they do not like change. So whenever I get a client who's telling me a story about how they stayed in the same job or the same relationship years after they already realized that they weren't happy, I know that I might be looking for a little bit of Taurus influence in their chart. Scorpio, on the other hand, does get stuck as well, but it gets stuck in a cycle of change. Scorpio is a highly transformative sign, but it can be prone to getting stuck in change just to feel something, because they are really good at getting their stuff together when shit hits the fan, basically. So when they are in crisis mode, they are so good at organizing their life, at doing the things they need to do, at just getting things done. And so what they do is that they can get stuck in this cycle where if nothing is really happening in their lives, they're not really getting much done. And so they will actually go and create change or create crisis to get stuff done. So they both get stuck, Taurus and Scorpio, but in different ways. So this full moon, I really want you to reflect on that. Which pattern of stuckness, if that's a word, which pattern of stuckness do you typically default to? Is it the Taurus stuck of just being comfortable and feeling safe with what's here already? I don't want to change, I don't want to move. Or do you fall into Scorpio stuck, which is, well, if things aren't happening in my life, I'm not getting anything done. And so I have to then go out and seek change, seek crisis, create some kind of a problem. So then I feel like, okay, let's get to it. Let's get shit done. Now, I want you to also look at the house that 11 degrees in Scorpio is in. that house in your chart and the opposing house is where this axis of tension is playing out with this full moon. For me, this is in my 10th house and my 4th house. So my focus around this full moon is on the patterns that I get stuck in when it comes to my home life and my emotional security versus my work and my career, and what I need to change in terms of my patterns there. Now, I do write insights for all 12 houses for every single new and full moon. All you need to do is go and grab my 2026 Astrology e-calendar, which I will link below, and sync it directly into your Google Calendar to read your house insight for every new and full moon this year. Now let's keep talking about Taurus energy, because this sun in Taurus really is the only grounding factor that we have. It is the only planet that we have in any of the earth signs right now. And it's almost like an anchor. Whenever I think of earth, I think of the roots of a tree. This is the only thing that is anchoring us into something stable and kind of bringing us back to earth. Because right now we have 4 out of 10 planets in Aries. We have Neptune, Saturn, Mars, and Mercury. We also have Chiron here. It's not technically a planet, it's an asteroid, but it definitely is influencing, or it's emphasizing all of this fiery, passionate Aries energy. If you think back to the Aries new moon that we had 2 weeks ago, we talked about the influence of Chiron, because Chiron was conjunct the new moon. It was sitting next to the new moon. Now for this full moon, Chiron is sitting right next to Mercury. Not even right next to it, sitting right on top of Mercury. They're at the same degree. So a lot of the pain and fears and wounds that might have been brought up to the surface 2 weeks ago during the Aries new moon could be continuing through to this full moon. It's kind of like this big cycle that we are in right now. And Chiron being next to Mercury is saying that right now, conversations that you might be having that normally are kind of just like, okay, yep, that's what we're talking about. Those conversations might trigger you more right now. Your internal dialogue might be triggering you more. The thoughts that you have about yourself or about the world around you might be triggering you more right now. The information that you see online that you consume might be triggering you more right now. So all of these communication aspects related to Mercury can be triggering these wounds that we have related to Chiron. And so all of this fiery energy can make things feel a lot more reactive and immediate as well. Plus, take into account the fact that full moons are generally when our energy and our emotions are heightened and more sensitive anyways. So basically right now, if you get pissed off at someone, or if someone or something pisses you off, take a deep breath and walk away, all right? Because everybody is feeling a little bit on edge with this full moon. And like I said earlier as well, depending on what time zone you're in, this full moon might feel a bit more intense for you. And that is something that we will talk about more in the Chinese astrology analysis section of this video. Now with this full moon, we also have Pluto squaring both the sun and the moon. This brings more scorpionic energy in because Pluto rules Scorpio, and squares are the most challenging aspect in astrology. It is the red lines that you can see connecting Pluto to the sun and the moon. If you remember again back to 2 weeks ago, Pluto was also squaring the new moon in Aries last time too. So that was all about control and power dynamics, and we have that theme carrying through to this full moon as well. Pluto can also be either creative or destructive, but it will always bring things out from under the surface. It will always be unearthing things. What makes it different this time compared to 2 weeks ago is that it's making what we call a T-square in the fixed signs. So this is the big triangle that you see connecting the sun to the moon and then to Pluto. Now this again does speak to cycles and patterns of being stuck, because our fixed signs do tend to get stuck easily. And so this might be a time when you might face situations or you might have experiences that really force you to confront the patterns that keep you stuck, that force you to admit just how stuck you are feeling, or that push you to that edge. So you have to break the pattern. You have to get unstuck. Because a lot of the time when we get stuck, sometimes we kind of just avoid it or we rationalize it and we're like, you know what, this isn't too bad. Like maybe I could live with this. But this full moon really is pushing you to the point of like, I actually cannot do this any longer. I need to break out of this cycle, or I need to break out of this pattern. Now, the release point for this tension, for this T-square, is in Leo, meaning what are you avoiding facing that if you did face it and you did see it and you accepted it and you integrated it or you transformed it, what might help you step into deeper authenticity as who you are, as well as more authentic self-expression? Where might you be stuck in just being stuck, which is the Taurus side, or where might you be stuck in constant crisis and constant change, which is the Scorpio side, because you are scared to really step into the spotlight and be seen for whatever you want to do or whatever that might be. We also have what is called a yod pointing to the moon right now. These are the two dotted green lines connected with a blue line on the base, forming a thin triangle pointing to the moon. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into yods. They're always an interesting rabbit hole. I find a lot of people love going down, but basically they are always a little bit uncomfortable. But this yod places an emphasis or an extra emphasis on the emotional aspect of this full moon because it is pointing to the moon itself. So this can make it feel like the depth that this full moon takes us into is uncomfortable, yes, but once we see it and accept it, it is inevitable that it will change our path or our trajectory forward in some way. If you have been feeling this or you have placements that this full moon impacts, let me know what you're feeling and what you're going through in the comments. And let us move into the Chinese astrology analysis now. So our chart for this full moon, we are still in the fire horse year, of course. We are still in the water dragon month, although we are changing into the month of the snake in about 3 or 4 days. The day pillar, though, will depend on your time zone, and that's what's going to make the difference between how you feel this full moon and how it might be impacting you more internally. I already have a whole video explaining the energy of the fire horse year, so you can watch that to get more of a context or more of an understanding of the context for this year. Like I said as well, we are in the same water dragon month as we were in for the Aries new moon. So again, this full moon is very psychological because that earth storage for our psychology is still open, but the day is where it really gets interesting. If this full moon is happening for you on the 2nd of May, that means you are in the time zones for Australia or New Zealand or China, then you will be in a Bingzi day. This is fire and this is water with the rat. If this full moon is happening for you on the 1st of May, these are the continents of Africa, Europe, and North and South America, then you will be in a day where the pillar is Yi Hai. So this is going to be wood and water for the pig. Now, I do want to just quickly jump back to the month for a second. If you have a dog or a dragon in your 4 pillars, then this full moon will activate that area of your chart, just like it did for the Aries new moon. So this is a continuation because we're in the same month. So again, if you have a dog or a dragon in your year, then this is your social circle or your friendship groups. If it's in your month, this will be related to your career or maybe something to do with your parents. If it's in your day, this will be personal to you. This could also be your love life or your inner self. And if it's in your hour pillar, this can be related to your children, your investments, your secrets, or your psyche. Now we're 3 days away, like I said, from entering the fire seasons of this year, our snake and our horse months, and these are very spiritual months. So our earth seasons are always this type of transitional season, if you will. This month and this full moon takes us deep into our psychology, takes us deep into what is there under the surface. Again, think about the Aries new moon 2 weeks ago. That helped us to start discerning what is aligned and what is not. This full moon is the process of that separation and seeing the way that our internal world has impacted us externally. So if 2 weeks ago we started sifting through and discerning what is going on under the surface, this full moon is about releasing some of those patterns that we have seen come up over the last 2 weeks. Let's start with 丙子 day. So this is for you if the full moon is happening on the 2nd of May. So again, Australia, New Zealand, China, those time zones. If you have a rat or a horse in your 4 pillars, this full moon will activate those areas of your chart. So again, year is your social circle and friend groups, month is your career and your parents, day is what's personal to you, your love life, your inner self, and then hour is your children, investments, your secrets, your psyche. Now, what is really interesting is that we are in the year of the horse. So this is an inherent clash within the chart itself, meaning this full moon can feel extra activating and spicy, if you will, more reactive, more exposed, more pressurized, more intense. Now, the rat and the dragon, our day and our month, are 2/3 of what we call a water combination in Bazi. So this is a very watery full moon as well. This is more psychological, more emotional, much more about what is your personal truth and what is deep under the surface of who you are. Now, as a side note, if you have a monkey in your 4 pillars, this completes the water combination. So this will be even more emotional and psychological for you personally. Now, coming back to the inherent rat and horse combination in the chart, because we have that clash in the chart itself, this is on the spiritual axis, the axis of your inner world versus your outer world. Since our stem of the day is fire, and that is what water controls, so that is what the rat controls, this means that this full moon is really going to show you how your presence out in the world or out in the way that you express yourself is impacted or controlled by patterns within your own psychological depth. And until you resolve or you feel and process and integrate the unresolved emotional stuff you have that's keeping you stuck in those patterns, you're not going to be able to do the things you want to do or achieve out in the world with the ease or confidence that you deserve. One more thing is that there is yang energy for all 3 of these pillars. So this is a very forceful full moon. Yang energy is always very forceful and like in your face, right? It's very strong energy. Now, with this yang energy, you might also feel like you want to avoid or escape or react or defend yourself or control the situation or control your feelings right now. Everyone is feeling a little bit more on edge. So doing some grounding, some breathing, chatting to your therapist, doing some somatic work, all of that can really help with some of this more intense energy going on right now. Now let's talk about how this relates to you based on your self element, otherwise known as your day master. If you don't know how to find that, you're going to look at your 4 pillars, look at the day pillar, and then what is the top character. That element is your day master or your self element. If that is fire, you are going to be feeling the pressure of, can you stay true to yourself while under pressure or while being challenged and questioned? So how do your emotions affect your confidence or your belief in yourself? And do your emotional patterns around pressure help you take charge and actually step into leadership roles? Or do you overthink? Do you hesitate? Do you end up pushing so hard that you actually burn out? If your self element is earth, that's my self element, this full moon is going to bring up how your emotional or mental state affects your finances or what you want to manifest in the world, and vice versa as well. So how do you ground yourself so you don't burn out and you have enough stability and confidence within yourself to go the distance or to see things through? If your self element is metal, then you might feel the pressure of being forced to say something or defend yourself. It's likely that you might be in situations where you need to assert yourself. So there is going to be this tension between being told what to do versus expressing yourself in your own way. And really watch out for how your emotions play into your communication, especially when you are under pressure. What do you say? How do you say it? And most importantly, do you even say what you want to say? Do you even speak up for yourself? If your self element is water, then there is a big focus on how your self-beliefs directly impact what you achieve in the world and your finances. Do you associate or do you tie your worth to your achievements? And how does this shift your emotional state, whether you like it or not? Do you tend to avoid things that don't make you feel good? Or when you don't feel good, do you tend to procrastinate and then you feel even worse? Or when you don't feel good, do you tend to push yourself and force yourself and end up burning out? And finally, if your self element is wood, then this full moon has an emphasis on your inner and outer worlds, as well as the emotional relationship you have between the two. How does your mood, how does your emotions affect your output and creativity? What might you need to process before acting on something or deciding on something so you have more clarity instead of just reacting? And what have you learned, and how does all of that knowledge influence the way that you show up and express yourself? Okay, let's go on to our second day pillar analysis. This is for you if the full moon will be on the 1st of May. So we are working under the pillar of Yi Hai, which is the wood pig. If you have a pig or a snake in your 4 pillars, then this full moon will activate those areas of your chart. Again, if it's in your year pillar, this is your social circle and friendship groups. If it's your month, this is your career and your parents. If it's your day, this is what's personal to you, your love life, your inner self. And if it's in your hour pillar, this is your children, your investments, your psyche, your secrets. So we have yin energy coming in for you around this full moon. With wood and water, this is slightly more reflective and less reactive as opposed to the fire rat pillar for those of you who will be experiencing the full moon on the 2nd of May. The things that come up for you emotionally around this full moon are going to be more related to how you need to grow from this, because our stem or our top character of the day is yin wood, which is more malleable and more flexible. So this full moon can feel a little bit more grounding for you because wood does need water and fire to thrive, but this also means that you need to be open to being flexible in your growth and seeing when things are not working anymore. So you might need to make a decision on your goals or on your path ahead. Again, being a full moon, there may be a need for an ending here, which can look like a change in direction or an adjustment in your goals in some form. So whatever is coming up for you around this full moon, you really want to be sitting with it and reflecting on how your emotional stuff has impacted or influenced the path that you're on. Now, another important point for you is that because our psychology, our beliefs, our emotions are always running the show for us, whether we are aware of it or not, this full moon might show you something that you have been growing towards or moving towards that you actually haven't realized. And around this full moon, you're having the realizations and the insights that this path is not actually aligned with where you want to go. Now let's talk about how this full moon relates to you based on your day master or your self element. If your self element is fire, then you want to reflect on how pressure affects you. Are you letting it shape you however it wants to based on your existing beliefs and how you react emotionally? Or are you using pressure to become more aware of how you react and you're intentionally working with the pressure? There might be an important perspective shift you need to make here. Instead of seeing what is pushing you and seeing it as pressure, trying to suppress you in some way, seeing that as something that you can use to then build and strengthen yourself in certain ways. If your self element is earth, then control is a big theme for you around this full moon. What do you feel like controls you, and what do you feel like you're in control of? You might feel like your freedom is being restricted in some way by deadlines, by rules, by certain situations or relationships that you're in, but how can you lean into this structure? So instead of it being overwhelming, it can actually help you grow sustainably and provide that consistent flow with whatever work you are doing in the world. If your self element is metal, then how do your emotions or your emotional reactions drive your output and your expression? Pay attention to what you say, or pay attention to what you want to say but don't say, and look at how it mirrors what is coming up for you on a deeper level, what is coming up for you internally. How might your beliefs or your emotions be influencing your expression more than you realize? Because that will then influence your direction and the results that you get in the world. If your self element is water, this is going to be a little similar to metal, but a bit more internal. So for you, this full moon is going to be about how your emotions influence your sense of self or your belief in yourself, which then again flows into how you express yourself, how you show up in the world, how other people view you. Do you take time to process what comes up for you internally and really let that clarity come through? Or do you find that your emotions become really overwhelming? So you either just express yourself through whatever reaction is coming through, or maybe your emotions really impact the way that you see yourself. And so if you're feeling bad or you're feeling bad about yourself, then the way you show up on that day is, not as good as when you are feeling confident in yourself. And finally, if your self element is wood, then pay attention to the information you are consuming. This is actually a really good time to do a digital detox and clean up the people that you are following, so your following list on social media, because what is being activated for you right now is the influence of the things that you learn and consume on your emotions and how it then affects your sense of self. So think about, what are the things you are consuming? What are you learning? What are you learning from? Who are you learning from? And how are those resources potentially keeping you stuck in the same patterns that you want to break out of, instead of supporting you in the direction that you want to go? So these are the two different day pillars we've got around this full moon. Let me know in the comments which one you will be under, if it's the 1st of May or the 2nd of May, and whether you are already feeling this intensity around this full moon. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of my Western and Chinese astrology analyses.